Well, hello and welcome back to Solutions. My name is Loyola Luvis. I'm a parenting and life coach, and I'm sharing parenting tips for raising a godly soul. Today, we're talking about the soul trait of honor. We're going to explore practical ways to help your child take ownership of this inner development characteristic. Oddly enough, finding the meaning of a word is so important, and then being able to communicate the definition of a word in a child's vocabulary sometimes is not as easy as it sounds. So we're going to start with the technical definition, and then I'm going to give you a definition that I think that a child can grab hold of. So the definition of the word honor is high respect, elevated reputation. But in terms of our children, something that they can understand, honor is treating people better than you think they deserve. So let's dive in to this concept here, this soul trait of honor. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had one of those days where you would just give your right arm just to have the kids not be mean to each other for one whole day? Disrespect can easily become tolerated as typical kid behavior until it's normalized and accepted. Do you know what I mean? I think the culprit behind normalizing what's really dishonoring behavior is sheer exhaustion. Mom, you're doing so much. We're all doing so much that we begin to compromise the home environment that we really want just to get by. That becomes the goal, right? We're looking to change that. We're looking to flip that new normal, an unacceptable normal, to something that's much better. Going from barely tolerating each other, barely um, coexisting, to honor, to treating each other better than we even think that person deserves. I came to Ohio recently and made friends with my mechanic. My mechanic said to me, I had my daughter with me. He said, "Wow, my girls look just like your daughter. I think we should get together. I think our girls would get along just great." So, although I couldn't imagine that he actually meant what he said, and he did. His daughters, we got together for dinner at my house, and his daughters, they could have been twins with my girl. Here was the exception. These two girls, Olivia and Madeline, were the most respectful, honoring sisters I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how old you are, but there was a cartoon on Looney Tunes. This is going to date me. It might date you. Sorry. A show called Looney Tunes, and they were two gophers. And these gophers were brothers, and they were so respectful of each other, so polite. It was over the top, and it was actually fun to watch. They would say things like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you go first." The other gopher would say, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, you go first. What was it you wanted to say? I'm sorry, I'm almost interrupted you. I can't wait to hear what you would have to say." I mean, this was the comedy of this cartoon. These two girls, Olivia and Madeline, reminded me of the Looney Tune cartoon because they were, "You enter first. No, you enter first," coming into the house. "Madeline, which seat would you like to pick? Oh, no, which seat would you like to pick?" This thing went on and on all night long. My daughter was gaping mouth open. How could these sisters be so polite, so honoring to each other? In their home, they had managed to raise the bar. Now, these girls were 17, 18. It didn't start yesterday. It started when they were mere toddlers. This training, nothing changes overnight. people don't learn how to be honoring by default just because you decide we're going to work on honor. It is a lifestyle. It is something that gets practiced in very practical ways. And what I want to show you is how to develop the soul trait of honor in a very practical way. So we're going to start. Well, first, let me ask you, so how can you parent in such a way that you help your child develop the soul trait of honor, the ability to rise above the bare minimum and treat people better than you think they even deserve? I like my visuals, right? We're going to shine the spotlight on the behavior we're looking for. You know, that's the thing about light. It brings attention to something we can't see. It takes it out of the dark and exposes it. So the visual for this concept is shine the spotlight. How do you do that for your children? Shine the spotlight in your home so that you can find what might be hidden, what might be buried, what might be in the dark. We're talking about raising the vibe. That is the principle behind honor. We're raising the vibe in the home so that it's not negative. It's not focused on criticism, condemnation, putting each other down. As typical, as I always do, I want to share with you a clip. I have lots of video clips from different workshops that I do, and I want to share with you a 1-minute video clip around this concept of honor. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me one moment here. Sharing my screen as soon as I can find it. There we go. Okay, so there you have it. Let's unpack this for a minute. So the video talks about reasons why a child may not be honoring. And before we can move into honor, we have to look at the elephant in the room. We have to look at what might be sabotaging your very efforts, our very efforts to create honor. So in the video clip, we saw that a child might feel violated. Children have a very strong sense of ego. They have their own idea of what is fair. It's always slanted in their favor, right? But the point being is you might think, Mom, that your child is being treated fairly, that there's no injustice. And yet, from a particular child's perspective, a very sensitive child, they may feel they're being treated unfairly, that they've been violated, and they may lash out in dishonor because they're feeling violated and because they're looking to defend their space, their time, their possessions, their ego, right? So it's important, if we're going to set the stage for honor, that we explore from our child's perspective, looking through their lens Do they feel that they have been violated in some way? We have to address that first. Or attention seeking. Maybe this child feels that they're not getting attention. Maybe this child feels that they are not favored. Maybe another child, their sibling, is more mild-mannered, so that child doesn't get in trouble that often. Maybe this child is feeling treated unfairly or neglected or ignored or less than. That may be another reason why a child would act out. We all know that child will act in negative ways to get attention, not just positive ways. If a child already believes themselves to be a bad person, they're going to act out in bad ways in keeping with what they believe about themselves and what they think you believe about them. And they, especially strong-willed children, they can sniff out insincerity. They can sniff out inauthentic words. Some children are resentful when you praise them. Have you experienced that in your own child, in one of your children in particular, where you actually see them get agitated when you compliment them? Do you understand what's going on under the surface? They don't believe you because they have recalled something you said or did in the past that hurt them, and they've clung to that. And now you look inauthentic for praising them after you hurt them. That's a conversation that needs to be unpacked with authenticity, with an understanding, right? Anytime there is a correction, anytime that there's some sort of violation, if that situation has not been fully restored, meaning you're in a better place at the end of the conflict than you were at the beginning, that is like a circle that has not been completed. Like a fit, I don't have a Fitbit, but I see that they have these rings and you have to complete the ring. That's how it is in conflict with our children. If they have feel violated, if they feel that they are not getting attention, that they are less than, that is an open wound that has not healed. That is a ring that has not closed, and they will continue to act out in disrespectful, dishonoring ways. That's your sign that the ring has not been closed. There has not been restoration. Okay, and then the last idea that we're going to explore as to why a child may be acting in dishonoring ways is they're flooded with emotions, right? So many emotions, they can't take in something more. It's another version of exhaustion, right? Emotional exhaustion, emotional overwhelm. How can I put in the extra work to honor somebody when I'm completely flooded with emotion? So we need ways of releasing the emotion in our household. Is everybody like a balloon that is so inflated, everybody is about to pop? Right? We need to let some of that frustration out, some of that exhaustion, some of that emotion out so that we have buffer, we have room to give, to honor. We cannot expect to honor people in the home if we are so flooded, so tight, so ready to pop. So, and of course, mimicking, I guess that's the last little clip of that video I wanted to address, is mimicking. Is your child mimicking somebody's behavior? Self-awareness, right? Am I acting in dishonoring ways? Am I speaking in dishonoring ways? Because if I'm not honoring those within the home, I can't expect my children to do any better. They are mimicking, they are feeling the vibe in the house, right? We're talking about shining the spotlight on honoring behavior. The easiest place to prime that pump, that new vibe of honoring, is right within our own souls. And it can be hard to honor people when we're overwhelmed, exhausted, frustrated. That ring has not been closed to the point of restoration with a child. So all of these examples are all forms of being reactive instead of proactive. We're talking about flipping the table on being reactive. Somebody's got to move into proactive state, right? And so it's going to start with mom. If it's on your radar to do it, that's where it starts. Priming the pump. Now, how do you get the kids once you've turned the table on this negativity, on this overwhelm, on violations, right? All these things that can sabotage honor. Now that we've acknowledged it, we've shined the spotlight on it, we're course correcting, we're bringing restoration. How do we find fun ways of helping kids practice honor? Little signs in the bathroom, in the living room, in the kitchen that say, is the room ready for the next person? If your child is between the ages of 5, 6, 7, and certainly up to 10, 12, preteen and teen, this is an exercise, a daily habit that begin it yesterday. Teach a child, practice yourself. Everybody needs to get on board with thinking, when I leave a room, is that room ready for the next person? When I go into the bathroom and I wash my hands or I take a shower, do I clean up before I leave the room so that it's ready for the next person? Mom, this has multiple benefits because we're all looking to keep a clean, tidy, orderly home anyway, and we can't do it alone. Cleaning the house alone feels like stringing beads on a rope with no knot on the end. Right? Can you relate to that? By the time you finish cleaning up one room, turn the corner to clean the next room, your work has been undone. That's what happens when everybody's not on the same page, when the systems are not clear. So a note in the bathroom, is this room ready for the next person? Turn around, take a look, tidy up. This is a form of honor. It is a simple, practical way of saying, I'm thinking of you. I want to treat you well. And I want to be treated the same way. Honor is a two-way street, right? So practical ways, the living room, when everybody's watching TV at the end of the day, decompressing. Hey, before you leave the room, take a look back behind your shoulder. Is the room ready for the next person? In our home, we practiced this day after day after day. When I walked into a room and saw the room not ready, the only thing I had to say was, you left the room. The room wasn't ready for me, right? The room wasn't ready for me. Uh-oh. It's not negative. It's not condescending. It's not nagging. It's, oops. Another habit, another practice, another fun way to develop honor is to make honor jars. Kids love to decorate things. You can decorate an honor jar. Sometimes kids can't think of what to do to honor someone in the home. And the problem is not yours, right? If a child wants to say, I don't know what to do to honor my sister, my brother, I don't know, an honor jar is the perfect solution. What you do is everybody has the name, right? A jar with their name, and they can decorate with paper or whatever to make their jar theirs, ownership. And then you sit down together with little pieces of paper and you write down together, this is a family activity, write down different ways to show honor. Make it a challenge, a game. Who can come up with more ways to honor someone in the family, such as clean up after somebody else, say something really nice to somebody else, give someone a hug and a kiss just because, do a chore for somebody else that's not typically yours, bring someone a cup of tea or a glass of water, or share a toy. Maybe you can think of even more ways, fun ways for people within your household to show honor to each other. A back rub, right? An arm on the shoulder. How are you doing? It is so easy to show honor to other people, and moms tend to be very good at it, but the family tends to ride on the coattails of mom's honoring heart. That's imbalance. We're talking about developing the soul. The soul needs to have balance in all of its traits. Any trait taken to an extreme, even a good trait taken to an extreme, becomes imbalance, and that is not in God's way of doing things. In all of nature, we see balance. You can have too little of something, and you can have too much of something. We all have a spiritual curriculum with different traits within our soul that are needing of tweaking. So all of that to say, this is not just mom. Mom may be priming the pump, setting the example, creating the initial vibe, but it's got to be fanned into a flame that catches on with everybody. And an honor jar is a great way to get the ideas flowing. All these little pieces of paper with all these little words, all these little forms of honor. And then at the end of the day, when it's time for storybooks and it's time for decompressing and it's time for all those great conversations in the day, to say, hey, Tommy, how did you honor somebody today? What did you do? What did you do to honor somebody today? Right? So that question should be asked at any point during the day. If Tommy doesn't have an answer, what can you grab from your honor jar? Right? Make it fun, make it sweet, make it kind, make it easy. When we want to prime the pump of behavior in our kids, the easier we can make it, the more likely it is to happen, the more likely that success is going to come with no friction. And then there's celebration, right? And celebration is that feel good that gets those endorphins going, that help a child come to the conclusion, this is easy. I can do this. This is not hard, and this feels good. Children, no matter how much we want to help them become mature, godly, soulful people, their brains are immature and they're operating out of flesh, out of pleasure seeking, discomfort avoidant. At the end of the day, mom, got to remember what motivates them, what gets them going. We have to prime the pump, make it easy, remove those friction points, and then celebrate. Right? Now, let's talk before we conclude on this topic of honor and these little fun ways of explaining to children how to raise the vibe, shining the spotlight on that honoring behavior, asking, how did you honor somebody today? Who did you honor? What did you do? Right? Is the room ready for the next person? These are simple, easy, everyday, practical ways to develop honor in the home. I want to finish up before we conclude with the resistant child. We all know someone in the home who tends to be resistant, or maybe even the most compliant child has a resistant day. What do you do for the resistant child? Children love visuals. A conversation needs to be had that always starts with the question, do you want a happy home? Do you want a happy home? It's an easy question with an easy yes, even if the resistant child won't admit it. The thing about resistant children is that they're suspicious. They don't want to cooperate because they don't know where this is going. But you've asked a question that has an obvious answer. Do you want a happy home? I would like a happy home. Because we all want to be happy, right? Excuse me. So for the resistant child, just like there is weather outside, a sunny day, everybody loves a sunny day. But when it's raining and cloudy and cold and windy, it's not pleasant, it's uncomfortable. In the same way that we have shifting weather patterns outside, there are shifting weather patterns inside, in the home. Have you ever noticed a child walk into the room and they practically suck the happy out of the air? Yes, it's true. It's okay to say. They come in like a rain cloud. You can feel the vibe just come down when this child comes in the room, or maybe it's a parent. It can be anybody. Okay, so here's the thing. Nobody's happy all the time. We all have those rainy, cloudy days where we're not bringing sunshine into the room. What do you do with those days? What do you do with that energy, right? You can't just suppress it. It's not realistic. Here's the key. Everybody needs a safe, quiet place to deal with their rain clouds, to deal with their negativity, to feel their feelings without sucking the life out of the room for everybody. Does your child have a place like that? Do you have a place like that? Your own corner of the house. Doesn't matter how small your home is, you might live in a one-room apartment. Do you have a corner that's yours, that feels private? Does your child know where their corner is, where they can go and be alone and just feel their feelings and equipped? You give them tools, right? Children need tools to learn what to do with their bad feelings, to say new words, right? Reprogram the mind with positive self-talk, journaling, breathing, laying on the floor with the feet up in the air, up against the wall, stretching, getting blood flowing through the body, a change of environment, change the air, take a shower, change the five senses, things that shock the senses, get us out of negative thought loops. So these are just a few simple tools that belong in your child's toolbox and in your toolbox, so that when you have a rain cloud over you, when you need to just be alone and deal with your feelings because you're not ready to bring your sunshine into the room. You don't have sunshine at the moment. It's okay to get alone, to find your spot, to know your spot, and to have tools in that spot. A stuffed animal that's just for rainy day moments. If your child has a corner that they've made, that they've created, that speaks to them in their pain, when your child walks into the room and they're not ready to honor their family, when they're not ready to bring their sunshine into the room and be a blessing, you look like you're having a cloudy day. Do you need a few minutes? Why don't you go spend a few minutes? I hope you feel better. We can't wait for you to come back out and be a part of what we're doing. There needs to be boundaries and borders in the house where there's a public space and people know how to act and what to bring to the table in the public space. And then private space. Where do I need to go to deal with my feelings? Sometimes you can enter that child's private space. Maybe they don't want to be alone in their private space. It's a very individual, personal thing. But when systems are in place and people know where to go and what to do and what to think and how to course correct and how to balance, it's not a matter of what do I do? It's just a matter of doing it. The brain loves predictability, clarity, knowing what to do. Even if I don't feel like doing it, at least I know what to do, right? So we've got to eliminate the things that sabotage and begin to take simple, practical action steps to help the family begin to work on honor together. All right, so I'm going to look ever so quickly to see if there's any questions that we can talk about. All right, I don't see any. So in that case, we're going to stop the recording. We will see you next week, next month for forgiveness, okay? So if you're watching this in the replay, you're not able to join us live,